All right, it is August 3rd. I am not feeling very well. Still getting over being sick the last few days. But I want to talk briefly about Norwegian potato onions, also known as multiplier onions or winter onions or storage onions, and there's a few other names running around there as well. I got these from a guy named Kelly Winterton in northern Utah. Great guy, loves potato onions, isn't trying to get rich off of them, just really cares about them, thinks they're great, and is trying to get genetics out into the world that are worth growing. Has done a lot of amazing stuff. I'd encourage you to go do a Google search for Kelly Winterton potato onions. It'll take you to his site and you can read his gardening notes and the things he has done so far. But he had a deal last year where I wanted to buy some seeds from some of the good varieties he has to grow like an F2 generation, and then choose the ones that did the best here in Missouri. And I noticed he also had these Norwegian ones for free. Like, they weren't doing well for him, and I emailed him today, and then later in the day I found his growing notes that talked about these. He couldn't get any of these to grow bigger than 1 inch in his garden. The guy knows exactly what he's doing. I have no doubt about that. Guy knows how to grow onions way better than I do, for sure. But every one of them, he couldn't get bigger than 1 inch, which, if you look, I mean, a lot of these are floating in that bunch. Smaller than 1 inch, around 1 inch, somewhere in there. And I harvested some of these. I haven't harvested nearly all of them. I just picked some of the bigger ones in the top row, some of the medium ones, and some of the small ones from the batch we have inside to show you how they did in my garden. To be honest, they did really fantastic. The only reason I got these Norwegian ones from him was because he said the taste was really good. They just grew really small. And that wasn't a big deal for me. I talked to my wife, since she's the one that cooks and really wanted me to grow onions last year. And she said, I like using small onions. And so, yeah. So for the cost of shipping, he sent me a bunch, I don't know how many, but a bunch of bulbs. Enough to finish, I mean, just about one of these garden rows. I think I had to stop right there. And it goes all the way down past those roses down there. And there's 2 rows in that 1 row there. 2 rows of onions. So whenever I started pulling some of these a few days ago, I was just amazed. I mean, this one, if you hold your tongue just right, that's cracking 3.5 inches. And just to show you how that looks in my hand, I mean, that is a pretty good size onion for any onion I've ever grown. This one right here is, I mean, doing just pretty fantastic. And all the bulbs he sent were just what he described. They were small, and he's grown them from bulbs, overwintered them, and they still wouldn't size up in his garden. So I'm thinking, my theory is, these are day neutral onions. They do much better further south than where his garden is at. And I can't imagine my soil is very good compared to his. I'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, these all, you can just look at the size here, all have sized up pretty nice. These are kind of the medium run ones. I'm still cracking 2 inches on those. This one's got 2 together, but I mean, it's still a nice size whenever you put them together. These are the smallest ones I could find. Here's the thing, though. There's a bunch of the small ones clumped together. The most I found so far was 9 in 1 clump from one small onion this spring. And I didn't do anything special. I got them in late February, if I remember right. I got them in the garden around early March, real early March here. And we'll go look at the bed that's left. All those that are left, with a few exceptions. That one over there, I believe, is a small dingy Texas Super Sweet that was left. That is an old Texas Super Sweet that made it from last year, and I let go in here. But like you can see, these are some more of the Norwegian potato onions. There's some small ones that didn't do real good. This small clump here still has 4 or 5, and whenever you pull them up, there's a lot. I've found there's a lot more under the soil. And we had a really big storm recently that knocked down my really nice sunflower. Wish it wouldn't have done that. Anyway, there's some more doing good. And there's some more that got halfway uprooted. Here's some more down here. I mean, you can see even the ones that are just medium sized. There's some I should have pulled. We'll go ahead and pull them since we're here and talking about it. And they're going to fight me. I haven't had this problem with any others yet. They've been coming up pretty easy. So you can see those aren't monsters. Those aren't monsters. But there's 7, maybe 8, 7 or 8 in that clump. I mean, those aren't big, but there's a whole bunch of them, which my wife likes for cooking. So these Norwegian onions they seem to really like Missouri weather if you get them in early. And I was going to dig in through this mulch and show you the soil. I grew onions in this last year and did nothing special. I put compost in there on top of our pretty terrible clay. So there's a fair amount of compost in here. It looks pretty nice. And mulched it really good. But I didn't fertilize it beyond that. Last year, I grew onions in here. Texas Super Sweets were in that row. I am the row up here. I grew red candies down here in this row. But I didn't fertilize this row at all before I put these Norwegian bulbs in. So they're running with no extra fertilization, just whatever was left by the onions in here last year. And they've still responded really well. I'm probably going to cull the ones that I don't particularly care for, keep the bigger ones probably, grow them out, keep track of which ones they were. I know when you plant bigger onions, you tend to get a lot of small onions like this. But if I keep track of which ones threw really big onions this year and save them even if they throw small onions next year from planting a big onion, be able to get a really nice row of onions around this size and start thinking about saving seed. So the reason I'm shooting this is if there are people that are interested in storage onions that last all winter, or onions that you can leave in the ground over winter and they come back with a vengeance and give you way more than you put in the ground. A lot like potatoes. These are something that you should look into. Kelly Winterton has a lot of information on his website. Skill Cult has some videos on his YouTube channel about these. But if you're interested in sustainability, keeping something going from the past that is worth keeping going, or having something that you can hand down to your family, then I would encourage you to get into potato onions, grow some from seed. They're pretty easy to grow from seed. I'll go show you that briefly. But you can grow some from seed, select ones that do well in your in your garden, in your location. And then years later, you'll be able to hand them down to your kids and say, we've been growing these for decades or so. These are ones I've grown from seed. I managed to kill a whole bunch of the seedlings that I started from him. These are Green Mountain Multiplier F2s, like a landrace variety is what he's calling these. So there's some variation in them. You can see a color difference. If I could hold the camera right and get it to it. Some color difference in these a little bit. But man, that's a lot of onions. I'll be able to save out the ones I like from these, taste test a few, and plant these out next year and have a couple rows going. Between these and the Norwegians, I wouldn't mind them crossing a little bit and growing some from seed in the garden. But they're easy to grow from seed. and you just need a little bit of time and dedication to pull it off. If you can start tomatoes, you can definitely start with onions from seed, and then pick the ones that grow the best for you, store the best, show the traits that you like, and we can make potato onions make a comeback and be popular again. So that's it. I'd encourage you guys to really check out potato onions, try them out, and see if they do well in your garden.